You are listening to Attractive Relationships, the podcast where we dive deep into the art and science of relationships and communication. I'm Rico Armstrong, your host and advocate for attractive, happy relationships. In a world where relationships play a crucial role in our personal and professional lives, understanding how to communicate to connect with others is essential. Transform your communication skills to increase your social status, your social confidence, and help you gain the best relationships you can have. Welcome to Attractive Relationships. All right, welcome back, everybody. And in this episode, we're going to talk about one of the biggest takeaways that I learned about relationships after a 9-year marriage ended suddenly. And I'm going to share this with you in hopes that you don't have to go through the heartache that I went through that took me a long time to get out of. If the last two episodes previous to this, I talked in detail about that 9-year marriage, what went right and what went wrong. And then the following episode, the one just before this one, I talked about how to move past those heartbreaking relationships. Spoiler alert, it's not easy, and there's not any one answer, but hopefully things in that episode may have helped you to move past certain relationships or things that you resonated with. This episode is going to give you maybe the most critical thing that I learned, that if I had a better understanding of this, I wouldn't have been in the situation of heartbreak and emotional trauma of a breakup the way that I was. And the interesting thing about what I learned is that it was a development of things that I kind of sort of already knew. It just became so much more clearer after my divorce. I wish I had this clarity before I even got married. It would have not only made my decisions about marriage maybe different, or at the very least, it would have made the relationship different in a good way if I had had this kind of clarity and understanding. Because when you understand what I'm about to share with you, it makes it easier and quicker to identify why there might be arguments or struggles in a relationship. And the quicker you can identify it, the easier and better it becomes to figure out how to deal with it and avoid the emotional trauma of not dealing with it properly. So what was the thing that I understood as a kid that was not as clear as when I then became divorced? And as a kid, one thing that I really understood was communication and purpose, things I kind of understood were communication and purpose. And what I mean by that is purpose is something that just drives you like a fire in you, that just like I don't need help being motivated to do this thing. That's your purpose. And what I started to realize dating in my like teenage years and my early 20s is not everybody had a purpose, but they would say that they did. And this is where the communication part comes in. So for example, I knew that what I wanted to do, even at a young age, was to help people be the best versions of themselves, like whatever that meant at that time. And I would articulate these goals with people or girls that I was dating. And then I would ask them, I was like, what do you want to do in life? And I mistakenly said, what goals do you have? That's a mistake, and I'll tell you why. But what they would say is, oh, I want to, and then they'd say whatever thing that they were going to say. It's like, I want to be able to um, go to college and have this job, or I wanted to be able to help people in this way. People would say that was their goal or their purpose in life. And then I would ask them this one question: what are you doing about it? And they would say, well, essentially they weren't doing anything. They were just giving an answer that sounded good on a date, or that they thought that I might want to hear. But all it took is, what are you doing to achieve this goal or purpose? And it all fell apart. But it didn't end there. Then we would just have these conversations and I would listen. And this is when I learned how important communication is. I would just listen. And they would, I always say, people tell on themselves if you just listen long enough. And these girls that I would date would talk about how they want to have fun, how they want to travel, and how all their energy and resources are poured into fun and travel and experiences. And while there's nothing wrong with those things, in fact, I think that's what your young years are supposed to be for. What it clearly said to me was that whatever you said your purpose is, either that's not really your purpose, you were just saying it because it sounded good, or if this is your purpose, you are not in a place in life where you're really going for that. Hard to tell which, but what I do know is that if it's a true purpose for you or for anybody, it is a fire, it's part of who you are. It's not a temporary thing. This lesson of listening and communication, along with understanding purpose, is what became more clear to me after my divorce. And while I was sad to not have that clarity before my marriage or throughout my marriage as clearly as I did afterwards, that clarity has definitely helped me uh, in my present life and since my life since divorce. So if I had to break it down, let's break it down into three things when it comes to purpose, particularly. And then the third thing is going to talk about how communication plays a role. So when it comes to purpose, the first thing is that we have to know what your purpose is and understand that your purpose is not the same as a goal. What is the difference between a purpose and a goal? A goal has an end. Think sports, for example. When you are playing sports, your goal is to win the game. If you're playing football, your goal is to score points. If your goal is even to be an astronaut, something very ambitious, your goal is to go into outer space in a rocket. If you want to be a doctor, your goal is to get that PhD. But once you become that, once you get that PhD, once you get to that outer space, once you score those points and finish the game, the goal ends. But a purpose never ends. A purpose is who you are that never leaves you. Hey guys, real quick, I'd love to connect with you beyond these episodes, which is why I'm excited to tell you that Attractive Relationships recently started an exclusive newsletter just for you. You'll get behind the scenes stories and additional exclusive content to aid in building your personal attractive relationships. So if you'd like to be kept in the loop, simply click the link in the description below the episode. So understanding that is the first key. And I think it's the hardest thing for people to really understand and grasp for themselves. It can take people a very long time. And if you want a shortcut to figuring out what your purpose is, I highly recommend reading Simon Sinek's book, Start with Why, and then read the sequel to it, Find Your Why. I read those books and it gave a lot of clarity on my purpose, and it put everything in my past in a really awesome perspective and helped me understand why I am the way that I am, and to be able to articulate my purpose towards people that I would then end up dating and marrying and what have you. The second thing is, once you understand your purpose, then you set your goals or plan that helps you work on that purpose. All right. So, for example, speaking for me, my purpose is to help people become the best versions of themselves and to celebrate our accomplishments so that together we all get more of what we want. If you're the best version of yourself and you show up in whatever environment that you're in, you're going to get more of what you want, but you will also affect other people. because you showed up in your best self. And if you influence me because you are your best self, it helps me to become my best self. And we can celebrate each other in what we are accomplishing. Do you see how that works? At least that's my purpose. That's what I want for everybody. Because if the world was like that, it would be amazing. And so that's my purpose. That never ends. That drives me every single day. The goal that I take to get there, that can change. One of those paths that I took to get there was to be certified as a coach. And I did fitness coaching and I did a lot of group classes. And in those classes, I walked in every day and said, how can I help you be the best version of yourself in this arena? And now I'm helping people with communication and understanding how connection works in relationships, whether it's professional or personal. Because again, if we can show up in our best selves, we become better in our relationships. We get more of what we want. Notice that my goals have been different. My goal at one point was to help people be the best versions of themselves through fitness, but now it's in their relationships. Your goals might change. Your path along your purpose, you might have to take a detour here and then. But the main point is find a goal that aligns with your purpose and actively work on that. If you do that, you will be more attractive to everybody. You will be more attractive towards the people in your workplace. You will be more attractive to those that you have a romantic interest with. And if for some reason you working on your purpose is for some reason not attracted to other people, then it makes it easier to figure out who's not your people and who you shouldn't be messing around with anyway. But in general, if you're working on your purpose, working on those goals, your relationships and choosing the right ones will be better, thus having attractive relationships. Here's the third thing. You know your purpose, you're working on your purpose. The third thing is to use your communication skills to understand other people's purpose and how they're working on theirs. Going back to, again, when I was dating in my younger years, is something that I kind of knew, but it didn't become clearer until later in life. I kind of knew. And again, I hear people when they would say, oh, I just feel like my purpose in life or my goal in life is to be whatever. But their words after that and their actions never lined up with what they said their purpose was. Until I met my now wife. Let me not exaggerate. There were some people that I dated along the way before I remarried that their purpose did align with their words and actions. We just weren't a good fit for each other. But the point is, it's really awesome when you are so confident in yourself and how you move through life because you understand what your purpose is and you have a vision, a clear vision and goal that lines the path for your purpose. And when this is then how you create the boundaries that are necessary in a relationship that says, I would love to be in a relationship with you, but you cannot derail me from my purpose in life. That's my boundary. If you can help me and I can help you, then it's great. But if you can't, or if you don't know what your goals and purpose are, I don't even know how I can begin to help you. Therefore, there's this boundary, and you can choose the better relationships that suit you. Let me know if any of this makes sense to you. Know your purpose, which is different than a goal. Work your purpose. And then use your communication skills to understand other people's purpose if they have one. If you do those things, those are the things that I wish I had a clearer understanding of before I was married. But I am very grateful that I have that clearer understanding now. As we come to the end of another episode of Attractive Relationships, I want to express my gratitude to you for tuning in. Your support really does mean the world to me. Now, if this episode brought you any value, I would truly appreciate it if you shared this podcast with anyone that you think could benefit from our discussions on effective communication and relationship building. Until next time, remember, great relationships start with great communication. So stay curious, stay compassionate, and keep building those attractive relationships.